This midterm will also decide who occupies a seat that is essentially a watchdog for the state over accounting and disbursement of state and local government finances. The state controller also serves on 70 boards and commissions. California's current controller is Democrat Betty Yee, and she will term out. So the two candidates are Democrat Malia Cohen. She chairs the California State Board of Equalization, and this man right here, Republican Lanhee Chen. Thank you for coming into the studio.
Thank you.
From San Jose. Thank you for making the trip. You know, obviously you got a chance to campaign in Fresno as well this week, and really, what's your message here to voters that say, is this fair and balanced when you talk about state controller? If you win this state or this seat, it's going to be the state's top accountant.
Yeah, it's the person who's supposed to give us transparency and accountability into every dollar the state spends. So yes, it's the state's chief accountant, chief fiscal officer. I think of it, though, as really the person who can finally let us know, is our money, as taxpayers, is our money being spent as we're told it will be?
You have repeatedly asked for a debate with Malia Cohen, and she has repeatedly not responded.
Yeah.
So will there be a debate?
Well, I hope so. I mean, debates are an integral part of how voters can decide between different visions, different candidates. And it's an opportunity for us to be before journalists, to be before the public and say, here's what we want to do, here's why you ought to pick me. And that battle of ideas is so central to democracy. I think there's an arrogance about my opponent. Well, that she doesn't want to sit down and have this conversation.
You know, and you say that you know, there's a conflict of interest because she's also very close to Governor Newsom and close to the state legislature as well. But what makes you qualified for the job to be the fiscal police policy of spending when she already has a chair on one of the big boards of the 70 that you will oversee?
I have experience in policymaking. I have experience in business. I have experience in government. I've got experience across all the broad range of things you need to do this job well. I understand what it means to look at a balance sheet, having been involved in business. I understand also what's wrong with tax policy in our state, having worked on policy for many, many years. You know, I'm one of the few people that's actually been appointed to high office by a Republican and Democratic president. So I've worked across the aisle. I've actually done the kinds of things we need to do and haven't just been in Sacramento my entire life.
If you were state controller right now, what is that one thing at the top of the list that says, Governor Newsom, we have to sit down and say taxpayer money is not being spent wisely?
Boy, it's got to be either homelessness or this unemployment insurance fiasco we've had in our state. EDD, $20 billion at least that went out the door to fraudsters in Russia and China, people in prison. We need accountability for that money. You know, that money would have paid for our gas taxes for 2 whole years. It would have paid to hire 200,000 new teachers in our state. I mean, it's a remarkable amount of money for which there's still been no accountability. And then the homelessness crisis. Too many of our cities, including here in Fresno, are experiencing a crisis because we can't spend that money wisely.
You know, you got in a bit of a tweet war with your opponent not too long ago. And it's a tweet that apparently she went on a trip to South America back in 2006. And here's your tweet. We always knew Cohen was extreme, but we had no idea she was this extreme. The last thing we need as California's fiscal watchdog is someone who traveled to Venezuela to study the revolutionary thought and mindset of Hugo Chavez's brutal social regime. Then she fired back. Another dishonest attack by Mr. Chen. I took this trip to study the African diaspora and learn about the country's medical system. Of course, far-right commentators at Fox News would spin it into misinformation. What's your response?
Well, it's interesting because she doesn't deny she went to Venezuela. She doesn't deny she went during the time Hugo Chavez was leading that country. And she doesn't deny she was studying the socialist system, healthcare. One of the worst healthcare systems in the world, by the way. But the reality is we have seen this background from my opponent over and over again. An extremist background. Somebody who has an extreme background of raising taxes, raising fees, not fighting for taxpayers, not showing up for work, worst attendance record on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. And I just don't think that that kind of extremism is what Californians want. So this is just emblematic of that.
You know, we did reach out to Malia Cohen, and we did not get a response from her campaign, so I want that to be known. She did fire off this other tweet, and I want to get your response. On a day when Senate Republicans, this is quoting, proposed the national ban on abortion, Lanhee Chen was silent. on the issue. His national Republican friends are now targeting my campaign to distract from his record of supporting anti-choice candidates. Where do you stand?
I'm pro-choice. And this is what she's trying to use, yet another distraction. She's trying to engage in the kind of political smear tactics that are so typical of her and her colleagues in Sacramento. Look, I am in this race to fight for taxpayers and to make sure we have accountability and transparency for every dollar we spend. That's what this office is about.
Has California wasted taxpayer money?
Yes. Absolutely.
How much?
Well, EDD's $20 billion alone, maybe $30 billion. You look at public schools, $60 billion came in from the feds in tax money into our state. Did that money actually get us better schools? Are teachers being paid more? Are kids having more iPads? Do we have filtration to deal with COVID? These are the kinds of questions we need to be asking, and we never get answers. We never get straight answers about where the money is going. So yes, taxpayer money has been wasted, and it's going to be part of my job to find out where and how and make sure it stops.
Lanhee Chen, running for state control.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Great to be with you.